Hey, this is a video that's going to talk about how to prepare your painting palette for a monochromatic painting in black and white. So I have a value scale close by, I have my palette, I have a lid, I have a palette knife, water, and the paints that I need. So we're going to run through how to do this and to prepare it. And if you do this well, then you can use this palette for multiple painting sessions and save it and come back to it. And if the idea is that we're going to create a palette here that has different values around the outside that we can very easily just pick from, and this will make the painting process go far more rapidly than if we were mixing paint one step at a time. So let's get into it. Some of you may be using this for doing your painting on top of a gel medium transfer, acrylic gel medium transfer, but we'll get into that later. For the time being, we just want to talk about how to mix up your paints to be different values. So we want to start with our lightest value, which is going to be white. You want to make sure that you're reading labels. You don't want to use gesso for painting. You want it to be the blockout white quart, not gesso. And it also cannot be gel medium transfer. That won't be white paint. That'll be see-through. So make sure you're working with the right stuff. I'm actually going to load this up more than I would want it to be there because I'm going to be pulling from this pile. You'll always need less dark paint than white paint, but I'm going to put a little bit of extra there also. Okay, essentially from here I have my lightest value and my darkest value, and we're just going to work from there. Also have my paper towels handy. Okay. And what I want to do is I'm going to mix up a middle value right here, and then I'm going to just scoop it and put it on the opposite pile, and then we'll take those opposite values and work from there also. Okay. So I want somewhere in the 5 range. 2, 3, 4, 5, somewhere right in here. Okay. I'm going to use that for reference. I'm going to take a scoop of this, more. In between, I don't want to just stick my paint into the black paint like that because that'll diminish the integrity of the paint value. So I have a paper towel handy. I'm just going to wipe that off real quick. Pinch, pull. I'm going to do the same thing with the black. I'll probably need just a little bit less of the black. I'm going to use this palette knife to mix it up. And while I do, I'm going to just kind of smush and slide and smush and slide. But the reason for this is, as much as we can avoid it, we don't want to mix up with the brush. Because what happens with the brush is made to actually sop up the paint. And what happens is it gets further and further up into the bristles. And if the paint gets up into this part of the bristles, it gets stuck in there, and it's almost impossible to wash out. And then it'll cause the bristle edges to flay out, and it will ruin the brush. We always want to keep the paint just on the very tips of the bristles of the brush. So when we can mix with a palette knife, then we want to do that. And you'll notice that it's looking really, really swirly, right? We don't want it to look swirly at all. We want it to be completely mixed in. This might take a few minutes, and that's okay because it's going to save you a lot of time in the long run. Now I'm going to check real quick to kind of determine where my value's at. I've got a value scale close by. And I'm just kind of hovering it above, and I'm squinting to determine which one's lighter or darker. And based on what I'm seeing, it's matching to about there, right? And that's like a value 4. It's about a step above where I really want it to be. I want to be about in this range here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, it's about a value 4. What I'm actually going to do is, since I've already mixed that up pretty good, I'm going to put it where the value 4 kind of goes. Scoop slide. I'm not going to get all of it, but I'm going to get a good portion of it. And that's not perfectly mixed up, but it's pretty close. Okay. Do that one more time. Okay. I've got my paper towel handy. I'm going to go ahead and wipe that clean. If I was being really, really meticulous with this, I would clean out the middle right now before I mix another one. But I'm going to try to get a pretty similar value here, so I'm actually just going to leave that and try to mix it in. It's clean still, I was checking. Need some more white paint. Okay, like so. If I get gray on here, then I want to clean it out first, because I actually got a little bit of gray paint back over there and I don't want that. Okay. I'm going to mix that up again. That's about even amounts of paint, so I should end up somewhere right in the middle. Notice that my white paint is almost gone, but I still have plenty of black paint. You're going to go through more white paint than dark paint. I want to get rid of all these swirls. I don't want them. You notice that this gray is slightly darker than that gray. That's closer to what I actually wanted. I still got some swirls in there. I got to get rid of those. Gonna hover it above here. There. Notice that if I squint, I can tell the paint knife is darker than that square. It's pretty close to that one. This is the closest though. It's lighter than this one. So right there, we're about right where I wanted. Value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's about in that range. It's actually slightly, maybe slightly in between here and here. Which puts me at like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. About this range right here. more time. Yeah, that scale's slightly off. I think it's about 5, honestly. 6, maybe. I'm going to put it right here. So I'm going to scoop up the paint that I just did. Put it right in there. Okay. Pinch. Maybe wet it down to clean it better. With acrylic paint, if you keep everything wet, if you're using a brush, you always have to keep it wet. If you're not using it, it goes right in your... If you're not using a brush and it's got paint in it, absolutely, it's in the cup. Just easier to clean. Acrylic dries very, very quickly. Okay. From here, I might try to mix just one that's darker than this. But the idea is that I want steady steps, right? Steady steps in between. And my white is almost out, so I'm going to reload that a little bit. Okay. Good deal. I'm going to add a little bit of black into that with the paint that's left over. I'm going to try to mix up a value that's about right over here, using the gray that's still in there. Just darkening up the gray that's still in there a little bit. Oops. Trying to keep my workspace clean. I don't know if anybody watches cooking shows, but they do the same sort of thing. Just trying to keep your workspace clean. Makes everything go much more efficiently. That's going to need more paint in it. That's not enough dark paint for now, but I'll show you a trick. Since I'm working in this range, I'm trying to get these darker colors. I'm actually just going to mix in a little bit of the gray that I already had there. Because between this and this, we should get something in between there, right? And I'm going to do something similar on my light side. I'm going to want just a little more dark paint in there. Since that's already dirty, I'm actually just going to do just a dab like that. That's probably way too much, but we'll see. Remember that you want to get rid of all the swirls. You don't want any swirls in it when you put it on the side. Wonderful. That's like somewhere right between those two. Okay, ideally from here, see how those are kind of evenly spaced? I'll just take a little bit of this and I'll mix it in there. I'll take a little bit of that and I'll mix it in there. Okay, to get an in between. And same thing with this and this. I'll just mix them up over here. I'm going to clean up my palette first real quick. Okay. A little bit of that. A little bit of that. that. Good. Look at that. That half of the palette's done. Dark, so we got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, already completely in order, in value, ready to go. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side here. Wipe to clean. I know I'm going to need white for that, and I'm going to need white for this too, but maybe slightly less. Okay. And I'm going to need gray for both of those. Need gray there. And then maybe slightly less over here. Okay. A little more white, a little less gray, a little more gray, a little less white. Okay, I want to point out something here. These are slightly different, but not quite enough. That's about one step up, which is good. That's what I want. But notice how similar these two look, and then look that there's a pretty big jump from this one to this one, right? So I want to make this one more in between these two. I'm actually going to add a little more white into my first one here because I don't want a big jump. I want really even spaces in terms of value shift. It's kind of surprising how much white you need to add into something to make it increase in value. It's far easier to just add a little bit of a darker color to make it darker, but in this case I'm going to need quite a bit more white to get that to lighten up. There we go. That's much better. That's much better. Pretty evenly spaced now between steps. Alright, and just one more. I should just be able to mix those two. You'll need less of the darker color. Get rid of all the swirls. Yeah, excellent. That's right between those two. Sweet. And clean everything up. I have the middle clean in case I need to mix up any more. You want to work quickly with acrylic because everything dries really fast. It's much easier to clean up before it dries. Clean your other tools. Take a few minutes. Get the paint off of your palette knife. You'll want to clean up the paint that's on the outside of the troughs on each of these. So that it doesn't slide all over the place when you go to put a lid on it. This is not completely airtight, but it works pretty darn good. Palette's ready for painting next time. Slide this over the top. Get a pretty good air seal on it. This won't stay forever, but for a couple of painting sessions it should. Okay, and next time you'll be ready to go and just be pulling from your different values there.